you guys know what's coming. I sent you a little script of the questions, but it's a little bittersweet to end this podcast, but I can't imagine not discussing it either. So a couple weeks ago, we lost our friends John and Karen Werner. Been really hard. But I think it also helps to remember the good times, and so that's what we'll do. Uh, I know the three of us all knew John and Karen different amounts of time, but I just wanted to give y'all an opportunity to share what you will remember most about the Werners. And we'll start with Zach. What do
Yeah,
you?
I knew him. I knew him. I knew him the least of all of us very clearly, but I will never forget my first day at the Trib. Right. My first day, his last day. We're just driving around. He's showing me all the spots. We're going to high school stadiums and MCC and all that. And then all of a sudden, he can't turn his car because he's got a flat tire. And so my first day at the Trib and his last day, we're both on our backs underneath his car trying to jack up his truck. And luckily we had another coworker come save us, and it was great. And it ended up being a good day. And went and met Jerry after that. And I now in
That spoiled the
hindsight,
day.
yeah, well, I didn't say that. But in hindsight, like, I heard for my first however many months here, I heard Baylor family be like thrown around, and everybody said it. And I always thought that maybe it was just a coach speak or a marketing thing, but like I think what he built and who he was and his relationships that I learned that day really just embodied what Baylor family meant. And it's not just a marketing thing; it's totally real. And he kind of embodied that, and he kind of lived that. So that's what I'll remember most.
Yeah, and uh, I was on vacation when you had your first day, and so I was always grateful that John was around to, even though it was his last day, to show you around and to kind of break the ice with you, and he was happy to do it. I mean, John was just, one of the nicest guys in the world. Jerry, you knew him a long time. Y'all were very good friends. I mean, there's probably a million things you remember.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned this one at the hospital when we were up there with the sisters, but John and Karen were not married yet, and we went on I guess a three-way date, afternoon movie.
Hello.
Yeah, when there's like nobody else in the. Well, Kevin Tankersley says he was there. I don't remember Kevin being there, but we'll go with that. But anyway, there was very few people in the theater, and it was just me and John and Karen and maybe a couple other people, and we were watching a horrible movie called Angel, and it was high school student by day, prostitute or stripper at night. And John and we were just laughing our butts off the whole time. Just, it was so ridiculous but Karen the whole time was, oh, that poor girl. Oh my gosh, just so sympathetic for her case. And that's the one that really resonates with me. But yeah, you're right. I mean, so many great memories really with both of them. But yeah, and then just all the road trips that I had with John, just wherever we were going. And it really continued even after I came to Baylor. We would still make a lot of trips together. And, again, I think I mentioned this up there, but he would actually have a mixed CD of the worst of the 70s, not the best, the worst of the 70s. And what's funny about that is it was actually some of my favorite songs. It may speak to my music taste, but loved the duets, and he hated them, and a lot of them were on the mix CD. So those are kind of a couple of things that I really remember about John and Karen.
Yeah, I think this will probably resonate with you guys. A few nights after they passed, I had went out with Chad and with Jason Orts, and we were reminiscing a little bit, and just thinking of different things. And at some point, I said, they were John and Karen were just the coolest, dorkiest people that you've ever met.
Yes.
and and I don't mean that as an insult, but they were quirky in their own way. They were they had their little quirks, but man, they were cool. They were cool. And as Jerry alluded to, John's love of music was deep, and he knew a lot. Certainly on many road trips, we did the worst of the '70s thing too, and he inspired me. Okay, and so then I would come up with new ones, and I came up with the worst of the '80s and worst of the '90s, and they were pretty bad. And we would just laugh and sing, and I'm with Jerry. There were songs like John's taste is always better than ours. There was be songs like, man, I like this one.
That's right.
This
How is this one on
bad.
the worst? This can't be on the worst.
Right. We had such a great time on so many road trips. He loved food, and he and I agreed on like 99.9% of food. Restaurants, we would always want to go to the same places. But mostly I just, as an coworker, which we were a lot more than that, but I just appreciated his hard work and his dedication and his knowledge and his writing. I mean, all of it was good. He, I was listening to the retirement video that we did, and David G. Campbell said something like, "You got people better than anybody I've ever known with like feature stories and stuff."
I just kind of want to say thanks for the great stories that you wrote over the years. You got people better than anybody I've ever known. You always had that innate ability to see the humanity in people. It was an honor working with you when I was at the Trib. It's been a pleasure reading everything that you've written since then. Have a great retirement, buddy.
Because he would sit there and he would listen. It wasn't about John, it was about the subject that he was covering.
Yeah.
So but beyond that, I mean, he was just a very, very good friend. My pastor came over and prayed with me when John passed, and I was telling John stories, and I think my pastor had actually heard a few from me before, but he humored me and just let me go. And he was like, he sounds more like a brother. And I was like, oh man, what are you doing to me here? But no, I mean, I think we loved John, we loved Karen. Certainly we'll miss them. It'll be kind of weird this season, but they will remain in our hearts. So yeah, just wanted to leave with that.
Yeah.